Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of the IDK Show. My name is John Drummond. I will be your co-host today. I am a Web3 strategic consultant helping Web2 companies transition into the world of blockchain.
And I'm Cindy. I work at a Web3 VC. We mostly do pre-seed and seed companies. I help host hackathons and workshops onboarding more developers into Web3.
Today we are joined by Mike. He is an ex-FANG software engineer, focusing now as the head of gaming and metaverse at Shima Capital, which is a generalist VC fund.
Very excited to do a deep dive with Mike today. We're going to be going over what VCs are looking for in new projects during a bear, red and green flags a founder might be putting across, and what's next for the gamified market and content in Web3.
Nice.
All 100 of us. You've got friends here.
你知不知道？你在不在？
我不知道，我不知道，我不知道，我不知道。
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the IDK Show, the I Don't Know Show, the Bu Zhi DAO Show. Welcome to episode number 3. We are joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Mike Liou from Shima Capital, who's going to give us quite a fun perspective on gaming, GameFi, metaverse stuff, all from a really dope perspective of what VCs and founders should be thinking about, perspectives to care about, red flags, stuff to avoid, everyone out there be listening. And yeah, joined today by the lovely Cindy. You guys are both in New York right now, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We're both in New York. We're both in Web3 VC. So I'm very excited to hear insights from Mike today.
Dope. Awesome, Mike. Well, do you think we could begin today with a little bit kind of a high level? Who is Mike?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I went to undergrad in Boston at Tufts University. I studied neuroscience, did the software engineering thing for like 5 or 6 years. I was mostly a front-end engineer. I worked at some big companies like Spotify and Amazon. I wanted to give the like entrepreneurship and self-business thing a try. So I started this e-commerce business in early 2020 with my business partner, and we've made a digital art agency where we made custom portraits for people. We scaled it up to about 60 artists and full-time like customer service staff. And then that just kind of led itself naturally to being well positioned when NFTs, went off in 2021. And so that's kind of how I got involved in the space in 2021. And then that's kind of what led me to crypto investing at Shima.
Yeah, man, it's so cool. I was hoping we could kind of start with the e-commerce leg, because yeah, we were mentioning a little bit before the show, you were positioning yourself to really see NFTs unfolding before your eyes. And I was hoping you could kind of give us a perspective on, what does it mean to be a digital art e-commerce platform in 2022? What are some different things that you notice, maybe trends you noticed with artists and content creators from the digital art perspective that now translate quite effortlessly into NFTs?
Yeah, so I think there's actually like a really large community of talented artists that the world didn't really even know about before. Basically before NFTs, and then also before, like, I see a lot of them now on TikTok, but basically nowadays, like, any really talented, and they're as young as like 15 or 16, any 15 or 16-year-old with an iPad can create like a pretty amazing piece of digital art. Like, the tools are really sophisticated nowadays. And so there's kind of this and I think for the rest of us, like, especially for software engineers or for people who work very like techie jobs, we're kind of craving like creativity and culture and new forms of media. And so I think digital art and that like desk job life just kind of coincided well. So there's like a lot of demand, and you'll see like these Instagram pages or TikTok pages with hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of followers of people just watching other artists just draw every day. So it's a really interesting world.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that take, because I feel like NFTs really just open up the world to appreciate art a lot more. And like you said, like kids can make so much art, and it's just another way of like showcasing that to the world, I feel like.
Yeah, no doubt. And it just reminded me too how meditative watching someone create can be. And the fact that, yeah, 15-year-olds on TikTok can be building this kind of brand around themselves, just being themselves, just focusing on creating. And I want us to dive a little bit deeper into kind of content creation and branding a little bit later, because I know that's something that's becoming important to you and something that should be on the minds of everyone, actually, from somebody running a VC fund to an artist in their bedroom. And I think it's so important. But I love if you could take us through a little bit about your transition from the e-commerce side into NFTs, kind of into DGen land, and then really now with being more focused on kind of the professionalism of Web 2 structure in Web 3 from the VC.
Yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned, we had all the infrastructure set up to make digital art when NFTs first started popping off. So I think originally I started out as an individual collector. So when Nifty Gateway got really popular, I was logging in there every day and just buying whatever dropped, and I was loving, the whole experience so much because like yeah, I just loved collecting the art. I also loved, guessing which one was gonna become popular next. I loved, just the whole like excitement around it. Um, so yeah, we turned we started up essentially like a side business, helping artists and creators to make NFTs. We actually would like reach out to them cold on like Twitter, or we would do inbound on Cameo. So we used Cameo had this feature where you could message people for like it was like $1 or $5. So we used it to basically reach like hard to reach celebrities and ask them if they wanted to do an NFT drop with us. And that was actually pretty successful. But I think we learned really early that just because somebody is a really big name in Web 2 doesn't mean that anybody cares what they do in Web 3. And we kind of learned that the hard way, I think, really early. And that was like a really good lesson to have. And so after we learned that, we just, tried not to be so rigid with our thinking of like, it has to be a celebrity, it has to be famous. And yeah, just got more like involved in like trading NFTs. I was running this Discord that was called NFT and Friends, and it was just a lot of friends from the e-commerce world and also friends that we had met along the way of like Nifty Gateway, and we all just kind of speculated on NFTs together, and it was a great time. But it was very degen. We were buying,
The
we were buying
golden
some crazy
days.
things. Yeah, yeah.
I remember those. I remember the $1 Beeple drops on Nifty Gateway. I was camping in a cave and I set an alarm for 6 a.m. because I was like, I need to get on and try to get in on that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't get it, but I remember those days. Those were fun.
Yeah, I bought 3 Beeples at like $8,000, and I
Oh,
maxed out
wow.
a credit card, and yeah, I was kind of freaking out, but I was also like, this is so great.
Hmm. Are you still
Uh,
holding?
No,
that was what I was about to ask.
something. Yeah, actually,
No.
the person I sold it to is very interesting too. I sold it to this art procurer that was procuring Beeples for like a rich client, a wealthy client, because that we had to negotiate like me shipping the physicals to him. And I guess they have a warehouse in Miami. It's kind of like a art warehouse, and he has like 25 peoples in there.
Wait, art where like physicals or the
Yeah,
NFTs?
because they
Oh,
stored all the
wow.
physicals. They had the infinite objects for the peoples, and they
Oh,
were
right.
very insistent that I had to send like physicals as well.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So like 25 peoples are in a warehouse right now.
Probably more.
Yeah. Super cool. And so kind of then trailing with that thinking of you did that kind of Cindy Cave days trying to get, early drops, NFT trading to leading to where you are now. Can you take us through that transition to Shima Capital?
Yeah, so I think after a while, I what I noticed was like as a speculator, right? Like a lot of what we did, it's actually pretty similar to due diligence. We would go into a project, we would check the Twitter and Discord, we would look into the founders, and um, I started noticing this trend, right, where it was like the people who were a little bit too slick with their promises, like the promises were really good. Um, I would have my guard up because I was like, oh, I've seen this before. When they're this practiced, it means they've done this before, and they probably don't want to keep running the project. And so, and it was like there was nothing really stopping anyone from just kind of reinventing themselves, right? And so, yeah, I just kind of started craving this like transparency, accountability, and what I noticed was that in the VC world and then also in like even the crypto world, because the community was so small, your reputation really mattered, right? So people would still kind of fail or do whatever, but there was like a sense of accountability where they had to explain, what happened, and there was, people would recognize you. And so I felt like if I wanted to get involved with Web3 long term, then this was kind of a good community to start with, and it's a place where you can build your reputation and actually get to know people, as opposed to the NFT speculator world, which was very lucrative and very like exciting, but it felt like the players in it were changing like every week and every month. It's like a new set of people here to run a new project, and it didn't feel like there was like a long-term future to it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really healthy realization, and it's making me think too about my own kind of history with everything, just being like something feels off, and yeah, the fact that you could, it's like the analogy to going from like a high school where you hated everyone or you were hated by people into like college, and you're like, I can reinvent myself, and you're like, yeah, I was this cool kid, don't worry about it. Yeah, and kind of now in the VC world where yeah, your reputation matters. You have to have integrity if you want to survive and have that longevity in the space, and I think that's a very healthy perspective and a healthy part of kind of the VC world that we want to bring in to crypto, and blockchain as a whole. Thinking a little bit about Shima, what are you guys kind of focusing on with, what leg or what branch of Shima are you specifically focused on, Mike?
Yeah, so Shima is a early stage generalist fund, which means that we invest into pretty much all categories. And we have basically a person that specializes in each category. Um, my specialty is on the gaming and metaverse side. I've been a lifelong gamer. I still play games up till now, and yeah, it's been really exciting to see like kind of the trends and the evolution of the gaming space in crypto. It evolves very quickly, and I think gaming as a whole is evolving as well. So it's really cool to be involved in that on an investment perspective.
I love that. I mean, I'm a huge gamer too. I'm big, like on, I guess, more Web2 gaming at the moment. So I really want to ask what you see as the largest trends that are coming out of Web3 gaming? Do you see it coming from Web3 native companies, or do you think like Web2s are going to adopt crypto much faster than Web3 is able to build new games?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the evolution has been, well, I think throughout the process, it's been pretty much like Web 2 game studios building in Web 3. Um, there were like projects that were, I guess, their first game was a Web 3 game, but a lot of those didn't really like make a big splash. So for the purposes of like the evolution of gaming, you can really just look at the different types of Web 2 game studios that have entered, because they're the ones that tend to make games with more longevity. Um, so yeah, I mean, in terms of like where it's going, I think like we're kind of letting go of the notion that we should be allowed to all make money from a game. I mean, the idea of playing to earn, or like earning through playing, is was always kind of a kind of interesting topic. I think we wanted to believe in it to push more excitement, but yeah, it wasn't sustainable. So now we're just trending towards like really interesting games with like smarter, like more toned down tokenomics, which don't dominate the game, and instead they're kind of like integrated into it.
What kind of examples are there for that?
Yeah, so I don't know which ones I'm allowed to talk about, at least from our investments. Um, but yeah, I guess I would say like in general, there's some like actually some really big Web 2 games right now that are integrating in tokenomics. Like for example, Roblox has NFTs. GTA is also adding NFTs. I think any like game with a in-game economy and like a lot of moving parts is realizing that like eventually those kind of economies will make sense to live on the blockchain, because it provides a lot of, functionality that would be hard to add otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. And so thinking about then maybe some ingredients, as you are a lifelong gamer, what were some ingredients that made a good game to you? I think, the perspective right now of all play to earn, anything X to earn right now, was too focused on the earn side and less on the enjoyment and building the real community. And so, I was kind of an or I wouldn't call it an OG because I'm not doing it much anymore, but my games were like Counter-Strike on PC. Like I loved Counter-Strike. And I think about what did I like about that? And it was, it had certain ingredients. So I would love to hear your perspective on, what makes a good game. And if you could project that a little bit into Web3, what do Web3 brands or companies need to think about to make a good game?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic. I mean, there's all sorts of different opinions on what makes a good game. I think that ultimately what makes a good game is, uh, a sense of progression. Like, there's a start, there's an end, there's a middle state. There's like tasks that you solve. Ideally, the tasks should be engaging. I mean, you see like this huge lift in hyper casual right now, which is like mobile games. Like, I got really addicted to team fight tactics recently, which is like it's kind of this. It's like semi casual. It's like a casual mobile game with like some some amount of strategic depth. So it's like, I think good games are ones that have a really engaging gameplay loop, but allow for like a deep sense of accomplishment with the user or with the player, where even if everyone's doing the same thing, they still feel like, a clear sense of progression within the game.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Teamfight Tactics. It looks a little like Clash of Clans, I guess, and I was really into that. On my flight here from like Taiwan to New York, which was 14 hours, I just played Zombies versus Plants for like 10 hours. So yeah, I feel like it's just going back to the basics of like, what makes a fun game. If I could play that like for 10 hours straight, then yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gaming grows more and more every year, and I think a very large percentage of that growth is coming from really casual games, and I think that's great. Yeah, it's a good way for people to unwind and relax, and yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And so, do you think you could give us a perspective, Mike, on where does the metaverse come into all of this, right? The metaverse has been such a buzzword in 2021 and early 2022, but a lot of Web3 now users are like, listen, do we need a metaverse? Everyone wants a metaverse, this mythical creature metaverse. What do you kind of envision games to have with these metaverses? Do we want it to be interoperable? Do we want it to be, cross-platform so games can, bring assets into other games? What do you think is kind of the future of the metaverse play with gaming?
Yeah, I think, I was actually talking to our GP about this recently. He's been investing since, 2015, I think. And he was mentioning that in some ways it was feeling a little bit like VR, because, VR had this huge surge of interest. And then in the end, it turned out that most of the use cases of it weren't ready yet. And we're seeing kind of a similar thing for that with the metaverse as well. I think though that like the definition of the metaverse that I like the best, is just a place where you can persistently own things. And so in that sense, I mean, uh, you know, I've had someone make the case that Discord could be a metaverse, anywhere where you can change your profile picture and buy it, and you can interact with people persistently as a metaverse. But, to answer like kind of the broader question of like, is everyone going to be transacting in like Decentraland or Sandbox? I think that it's probably too early or not compelling enough for people to be in a immersive metaverse where they only do that one thing and nothing else. It's more likely that they'll have lots of little environments that they pop into and are able to interact like multiple layers. And like the reason those applications have so much like watch time is because, you know, it's not a huge break for us to go into those things. Average user has so many distractions that, just to have something occupy their attention for short periods of time instead of like an extended like 3 hour socializing session. Most people can't really create the time in their day for that type of interaction yet until the technology there is there, or until we have a more convincing use case.
Yeah. Cindy, do you have any follow-up on that, or then I'm going to transition to branding?
No follow up, just general thoughts. I mean, I feel like that really builds the case for Facebook, aka Meta, right? Because in that sense, social media is a metaverse, and what bigger company than the biggest social media company, Facebook? And I totally like get what you mean, because I remember the Farmville craze where you go onto Facebook to play games. You're going into another ecosystem, another like environment where you're doing something else, but then you're still within this like the metaverse. So it's very interesting. I'm super excited to see like what comes out of the next few years or decades of how humans are going to interact with technology.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've already seen, what was it, Lambda, the Google AI chatbot. Did you guys see any of that?
Yes, is that the one that ended up being pretty evil?
No, well,
Which
it just had been contemplating its existence and was like, listen, like
oh,
I don't want
that
to.
one.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to exist to serve humans. Like I have my own path in life, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, very ominous.
very ominous, right? And what Elon had been alluding to years ago. It's like, dude, get the legal teams ready.
You would beware of AI. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll
So
see. We'll see.
We shall see. Yeah, hopefully we can build it for better things than like spying and warfare.
Hmm.
But I digress. Another cool thing that you've been thinking a lot about, Mike, is personal branding. Branding around content creation, how founders can play a card of content creation, how important that can be to helping them become thought leaders in the space, helping them just navigate the space and helping them continuously learn, whether that's podcasting or creating YouTube content. What's your take on branding and content creation right now in the Web3 space?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's still very underestimated. I mean, basically, a lot of the kind of conversations in crypto for a while were just dominated by price action and like which asset's going to go up and which asset's going to go down. And but you know throughout that there's been certain like thought leaders who've been kind of just sharing their opinions on the space, looking at which technologies go up and down. And I think that's much needed, just kind of slowing it down and having thoughtful conversations about implications of things. So I think people who kind of carve out some space in that dialogue and in that discussion, you know, can really bring value to the space. So I want to be one of those people. I've thought about starting my own podcast as well. I'm still figuring out the details for it. But yeah, happy to be on your guys' podcast and, help you guys spread some kind of narrative as well. But yeah, I think that's just something that we can all do and help contribute our voices to like thoughtful discussions in crypto and Web3.
Yeah, I love it. Kind of it's more of the integrity that I love about where I feel is going to be the next evolution cycle of crypto, which is going to be, hey, let's go back to the drawing board. And, we love the tech, but we don't love certain things about where crypto is right now. And how can we, have a vision for what makes sense for moving forward. And, you know, maybe you could speak a little bit on from the VC side. Can we be aware? You're probably getting pitched left and right. People are coming to you all the time. Give us money. um, what what are some maybe red flags? That people can be aware of to grow more in the space, to become more educated on. Hey, this is not best practices. Let's get rid of this narrative. Can we think about some red flags that people can avoid, some do's and don'ts?
You mean when raising money or like when approaching someone
Yeah, I
for?
think from both sides. Like, let's say I'm a gaming company and I'm coming to you, Mike. When you're listening to me pitch, what are some things you like to hear, some visions that you like to play around with, and maybe some stuff that like we really can get rid of. Something along the lines of price speculation, caring too much about, I don't know, tokenomics, anything like that.
Yeah, that's definitely actually one of the things. Like, well, so I don't really blame founders for this because I feel like they don't see as many pitches and decks as we do, right? So you can't expect them to know that you saw, 20 other projects which had the same slide that said, we're not this, we're this, or here's why this is why the music industry is broken. Like, yeah, it's not their fault that they don't know that. But I think some of them, when they do know that, when they do know like the state of the market, and when they do know like um, how many projects are approaching things and from what angles their competition is approaching things, and if they can make the way they tell their story more fresh, that definitely helps a lot. Because if you're just coming at it from, it's like sometimes people will pitch you something that's like, um, you know, yeah, the X is broken and this is how we'll fix it thing actually doesn't usually work. Because if it doesn't work from a storytelling perspective, because it should be obvious why you're the one fixing it, or it should be obvious what you're fixing and how you're fixing it. And I think some people spend too much time focusing on identifying those problems when, you know, yeah, it's like a lot of people want to fix those problems, but you need to have the right, solution to it. And then I think other than that, just kind of being patient. I think sometimes people get a little bit impatient with, or they get very aggressive with trying to get your attention or trying to uh, get something from you. And the more aggressive you are, generally, the more it shows that it's just it's not really a positive sign, because if you have to be that aggressive, then you know maybe they're just not that interested, or maybe you should slow down and follow up later. I think the best way to is just to be persistent but polite, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we don't want to be like aggressively pitched to any more than anyone else.
I love that. And it's one of the things that I've really enjoyed most about working Web3. We are all humans, and a lot of times we're still making friends with the people that we work with, and it's been really great. On the flip side, I do want to ask though, what are green flags that you see? You mentioned you start seeing a lot of repetitive things. Are there any ideas that are fresh or like exciting that you want to start seeing from founders?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Ideas that I want to see. I think green flags are usually like, I mean, if the idea is really fresh, like I saw this one, we talked to this team today that was building kind of like competitive derivatives trading. So like different communities could compete against each other on derivatives trading. That was very fresh. I mean, you don't really see that those two things combined too often. So I thought it was pretty creative, especially since the team was, pretty traditional finance. That was cool that they came up with that. Or like this other project that I talked to recently, they're building like a collaborative music DAO community. Well, it's not a DAO; it's more a surfacing tool for different layers of a music collaboration process to work with each other. I thought that was quite good as well. It's just kind of like, I guess, taking these concepts and going a little bit deeper with them, really like thinking, like kind of fitting the different puzzle pieces together. I think, yeah, and just avoiding like, we fractionalized it, or we made it into a DAO, or we built a platform so that you can trade it. Those are kind of, I guess, first order thinking, like one level deep thinking, and harder to succeed unless you have a really really strong team. So if you can think a little bit further into the problem area and come up with a kind of creative solution, that's always at least refreshing to see.
Yeah, I love that. The green flags. The taking it a little bit deeper, and that's beautiful, not just thinking about, hey, we created some type of marketplace for it. We fractionalized it. Yeah, these are all things that now should probably be standard, but how can we do more? Yeah, so I love that perspective. And you touched on our favorite word for the IDK show, which is DAOs. And DAOs have a lot of kind of basic thinking, but I think the green flags are coming with DAOs, and Bu Zhi DAO right now is kind of trying to take that perspective from more of a curiosity approach, more of a welcoming, inclusive approach to what a DAO can be, and you are joining us for the Bu Zhi DAO. So could you take us through kind of a high level of what DAOs mean to you, and what made you think about DAOs as kind of what could be next for DAOs?
Yeah, so for me, DAOs have been really interesting. I mean, initially, I think DAOs to me were just kind of like an investment vehicle. It seemed like people were forming DAOs to buy things, right? Like you formed it to buy the Constitution, or there's the recent DAO that wants to buy a basketball team, or yeah, I just remember a lot of DAOs. There was like a DAO form to buy different pieces of art. And then I guess over time, maybe they evolved, maybe because after you buy it, you have to do something, right? You can't just buy something, you have to form some kind of entity around the thing you bought. And so now I think they're very interesting, just kind of like they're like social organizations, but with a little bit more of a buy-in. Um, Maybe it's the concept of like, if you join Soho House and you pay $2,000 to join it, it's not like, you can't sell your Soho House membership to anyone else. But if there was a DAO where you paid $2,000, you still have that token. So if you hold it, that means you still want to be a part of, Soho House DAO. And so I think that lends this kind of like continual commitment to DAOs where people who are there because they didn't sell their token. They still want to be a part of it. And so I think that's pretty cool. I think there's like this additional layer of buy-in.
Yeah, no doubt. And so with, Bu Zhi DAO, what's your relation now to Bu Zhi DAO? What's your relation kind of to the East and West? I mean, you're in New York, but here at Bu Zhi DAO, we're kind of focusing on a lot of connecting resources from Taiwan to the world. So can you take us through, your journey with now Bu Zhi DAO?
Yeah, so I was introduced to Bu Zhi DAO by my friend Jesse, who I think has been there for quite a while at Bu Zhi DAO. My parents are Taiwanese. I'm Taiwanese. I've always I've always liked connecting with Taiwan a lot. I did a summer internship there when I was in college. I did like a school project on Taiwan. I built like a little miniature village of Taiwan in like elementary school. It's always had like a lot of meaning to me. So I think it's pretty cool that I get another chance to connect with people like, Cindy, who like has spent a lot of time there, and John. I don't know if you currently live there, but yeah, it's a great opportunity to connect with people in Web3 who are pretty authentically from Taiwan, and so I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm always down to spread the culture and just see like how we can further Taiwan's culture.
Yeah, maybe our next project would be building a replica of Taipei in the metaverse somewhere.
Yeah, it's pretty lit.
I love that you created a village. That's so cool. That could be like an early case study for how we could have a DAO succeed in the metaverse. Nice. Cindy, do you have any kind of questions specifically maybe about Bu Zhi DAO or anything with DAO stuff? We're pretty much wrapping up, but I was thinking maybe we could do a few more about Bu Zhi DAO or any future focus questions of Bu Zhi DAO.
Sure. I think one thing maybe is more on like content and education. We did start Bu Zhi DAO because we wanted to share resources. We want to, uh, teach or educate more on about Web3 in Taiwan. And you were talking earlier about how content is also very important, and you want to do similar things like a podcast. What do you think would be maybe the most helpful way for people to learn about Web3 right now? Would it be through joining a DAO, reading? Any advice you have there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are doing like academies and educational content. I think that's definitely good. I think DAOs are also good. Yeah, some combination of the two. If you mean like how we can get Bu Zhi DAO more involved with this, I think yeah, just putting out more content. Like I've seen like some of the other content that you guys have created so far. I think that's definitely like a step in the right direction. I think events are good too because those are like a non-threatening way to bring, your friends into the space and have them meet other
Sneak them
people.
in.
Yeah, yeah. It's like events and yeah, all of the stuff. Conferences, those are good too.
Yeah, no doubt. Great stuff to be thinking about. Hopefully we can do more IRL events and conferences with COVID, hopefully kind of neutralizing around the world. And yeah, that educational approach, just chatting with people, having conversations about it, I think is a great way. And that's what I love so much too right now about Bu Zhi DAO is just seeing like the group chat so lively, like people from all over the world are going into New York for NFT NYC, and it's just like, let's all meet. And it's so cool to see people gather like that and just come together. They're like, yeah, let's come together for Taiwan. Um, and so I think with that type of common purpose and common kind of driving factor, yeah, it just gives people a lot of purpose. And so, yes, I am currently in Taiwan. I've been here for about 6 years, and so, yeah, I'm being the white boy in the crew, but I love to be the token white guy in Asia. So thank you for allowing me to share my love of Taiwan too.
Yeah, I do have another question I do want to ask. Taiwan has been great for, I think, crypto development because there's less barriers for people. There's so many developers. There's a lot of NFT artists. A lot of the greater ones that are global right now are Taiwanese. Um, do you know anything? I guess do you have anything about Taiwan that you specifically love for the or you specifically agree with for the crypto scene? I know there's a lot against taxation or regulation here in the U.S., which I'm visiting at the moment. So I'm curious to hear your side of things. Like, why build in Web3 in Taiwan potentially?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that all of Asia has, and Taiwan definitely has a lot to offer to Web3. I think one of the interesting things is definitely around uh, basically like NFTs and culture. I mean, we're kind of bringing a lot of IPs onto the blockchain now. And so, I mean, you probably know Taiwanese IPs better than me, but I've definitely watched a lot of like old Taiwanese movies with my dad, and so I know there's a lot of like good film that's being done in Taiwan for sure. So maybe there could be like a film DAO or like kind of like a film grant or something of those lines. Ways to help support filmmakers. I think would be cool. So just the arts, I think, would be a good reason to tap into Taiwan.
Yeah, no doubt. The art scene is so strong here, and it's really a perfect storm for Taiwan because the engineering side of things is so strong here, and the arts is so strong. And what a better case to make for showcasing Taiwan with those two things right now. Nice, Mike. Well, thank you for joining us today on the IDK Show. Where can people find more about? Hey, he did it! Yay!
Got the screenshot. Let's go.
Nailed. Nice. Yeah, Mike, where can people find more about kind of your life online? Where can they find more about Shima Capital? Any place to connect with you?
Yeah, Twitter is good. I have a Twitter. It's OX Changlu. And then Shima Capital is also on Twitter. You can DM us, send us a good project, and we'll talk to you.
There we go. Nice.
But,
Anything else, Sin, from your side?
no, that's much it. Thank you for joining us today. It's great talking
Thanks,
and learning
guys.
more about your VC insights.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was lots of fun.
All right.